Thank you.
Hi, Jose.
Hi.
Welcome. Welcome.
Ready?
Yes, I'm
Thank
ready.
you. Well, good morning, everybody. Thanks, Innovatrics, for setting up this wonderful meeting in such a nice venue. I think the weather is getting better. So
You're from Brazil. You have different benchmarks, right? Well, Latin America, I shall say.
I'm from Panama.
Panama. Even
I'm
higher.
from Costa Rica, living in Panama.
Yeah, this is complicated. You're from Latin America, which means you have very high benchmarks when it comes to weather.
Exactly.
We cannot deliver on that, sorry.
Yeah. Well, I'd start my presentation first, setting up the environment a little bit with a video of Costa Rica. So maybe next time we can convince you guys to come down to Costa Rica.
Someone defines themselves when they reconnect with their spirit, their true essence, the nature that shapes who you are. Who am I? I am an alluring concentration of beauty, rainforests, beaches, and biodiversity. I live in the heart of the Americas, guarded by 2 seas. I am the deep green that entices those seeking relaxation and adventure. And I am so much more. In my essence live the warmth and authenticity of my people. People with open arms who look forward towards the future and welcome opportunities. I am a unique, happy, and caring nation that expresses itself through the diversity of its cultures. I am cradle of human talent, proud people who embrace challenges. I am a nation governed in peace with a solid, long-standing democracy. I stand behind health, education, and the pursuit of self-development as the cornerstones of happiness. In my essence lie the preservation and care for the environment, a model to the world. I breathe the riches of my land, and I recognize the wit of my people, ever capable of giving more than expected. I am a trustworthy and reliable nation, distinguished by the value of what I create. Human development, innovation, and a proven international competitiveness set me apart and enable me to export quality to the world. Those who come to know me are surprised, amazed. My greatest aspirations can be found in my concentrated essence. I am a country that attracts those who seek the value of excellence and the commitment to sustainability. I have much to offer those wishing to purchase, invest, produce, and develop. I have the required human and technological capabilities to achieve this. I rediscover myself by searching within. I find myself in what is vital, in what is true. I rediscover what is important. I am green. I am happiness. I am solidarity. I am talent. I am innovation. I am quality. I am diversity. I am concentration. I am essential Costa Rica.
Oh, can we go now?
Yes.
Can we go now?
I have to convince Jan to run one of these conferences in Costa Rica in the future. You'll be more than welcome. Why such a beautiful country and peaceful country does need a powerful ABIS biometric engine? And this is the reason we have this opportunity in Costa Rica called for a program, a tender, for a new electronic passport and a biometric engine to border control. Why? Costa Rica is only 5.5 million people living there, but we were getting around 4 million visitors per year, mainly from Europe and United States. But also, we are in the path of the illegal immigrants that are coming from South America and Caribbean to United States. So border control was very important, not only to better service the tourists coming to the country, but also to keep control of all these illegal immigrants. So the project we put together was a consortium with Betty Doss and Innovatrics that actually participated as one of the members of the consortium for this project. So essentially the project has 120 20 enrollment stations, enrollment verification delivery stations. We set up Innovatrics with a capacity of 8.5 million records. And this is the first country in America with a polycarbonate electronic passport in color. So somehow we combine leading edge technologies, not only Innovatrics, but also the Veritas polycarbonate colored passport. So what are we doing with this solution? Of course, we're doing all the passport production. We're doing all the enrollment with Innovatrics. We deliver printers, mobile enrollment stations, and the whole system software development concept for passports. So it's a nationwide project. We have several consulates that are able to enroll people, and actually one of the ways they enroll people is verifying, capturing the biometric data that is connected through Innovatrics back to the civil registry ABIS, which is not yet, but it's not Innovatrics, it's one of the competitors, but we're working to replace that as soon as we can. So it is a good example of integration. Costa Ricans living outside Costa Rica are being enrolled. We capture fingerprints, we capture their facial. We process that through Innovatric, and then we validate with the National Civil Registry. So that's the scope of the project, essentially. And we are now working on something that we call land and expand strategy. It's something that we, as a company, we've been using in the past. Now that we have that database, Innovatrics, that database there, we want to connect the immigration police so they can run their process to the people that are in the street, are getting detained or whatever. We're working with them to connect it to the future e-gates that we plan to install in Costa Rica too, hopefully. And of course, the police in this institution, the immigration department, belongs to the Ministry of Security or Interior, as you call it here. So for us, it's a big opportunity to convince them to use the same engine to keep enrolling all the foreigners that arrive to Costa Rica and they apply for a residence permit. So that's what we call land and expand strategy. Now that we're there, we're trying to connect more people. And we've been working with Innovatrics for almost 6 years, I guess. We have our first customer 5 years ago, and we're happy to say that we now have Innovatrics solutions in Panama for the civil registry. We have the one in Costa Rica. We have the one in Ecuador. All this project has been done together with Veritas also. We have some licenses deployed in Dominican Republic, and hopefully next year we may have 2 more countries using Innovatrics. Thank you.
That's great. Thank you, Jose. So I see that the technology is kind of spilling over to the next countries in the region, and they're using the kind of experience that you had in some. What are some of the biggest obstacles that they're facing when you go to the next country, new territory?
Yeah, well, one of the things that we face in this region, as well in Europe, is this increasing concern about the privacy of the data. Actually, in Costa Rica, just 1 week before we were about to roll out the system, they came, one of these civil organizations, they came with a civil lawsuit against the immigration department saying that it was illegal to capture the face and the fingerprints and put it in a passport chip in order to travel. How we solved it? We decided to have a consent form signed at the time they request the passport and say, okay, you want a passport, you have to sign this. You don't want to sign, you don't get a passport. But those are the type of concerns now that there's a video surveillance all over. Everybody's saying, how are we making sure this is not being used for political purposes and control? So there's an increased concern on the power of the technology. And maybe it's because there's a lot of TV series that are exaggerating the bad use of the biometrics and the video surveillance, so it's creating a misconception. That's a big challenge. The other big challenge is the lack of standardization in these countries. I mean, you go to the police, they still have Latin cards. or fingerprint cards, and you go to another country, they have nothing. Or they do have very bad quality fingerprints from the civil registry. So integrating to different databases is also a big challenge.
Always comes down to regulation and the quality of data, right? It's always
quality of data, regulation, that's a big issue.
So you talked about how governments are concerned also about this privacy issue. So how hard it is for you to persuade governments to go for solutions like that?
Well, the first thing is the lack of clear regulation. It's not, we don't have like a GDPR regulation you have in Europe yet. Some countries has deployed some regulations. So if there is no clear law, it's very hard to fight against that. So the countries are starting to pass those laws, and then we are working very hard on proving them that there's more benefit than risk on having this, and not allowing customers to use it without any limit. For instance, if you have the emergency services, we call it 911, I think here in Europe this is 112 or something like that. Yes, you have video surveillances, you have 15,000 cameras across the country. Doesn't mean that we're detecting all faces at all time, 24 hours. If there's an incident that requires an analysis of a 10 or 15-minute segment, then you can run the live detection. So we have to convince them that that's the way to use it, and not that we are checking everybody.
Surveillance, yeah.
7/24.
Sure.
Yeah.
So the scope of the projects that you're talking about are huge, huge, right? So they said every good project is about the right time, right money, right quality, right? I'm about time here. So how long does it take for such a project to be rolled out in a country, approximately? What are we talking about here?
It changes from country to country, but it's at least 2 or 3 years between they develop the concept, they run the tender, all the competition, they protest and challenge the tender, and then we deploy it. And that's the way it is. And unfortunately for the competition, on all these projects, we are replacing other vendors. So that's why it's very hard that they are not complaining about being replaced. But it's always at least 3 years. This is a long-term investment industry. That's the way it is.
Okay, we do have one question on Slido so far. You mentioned the strategy of expanding biometric registry into other areas. Which are some of the ones that could benefit the most from incorporating
well, in the
biometrics?
case of Costa Rica, definitely border control. Border control is very important. As soon as we integrate, we have this database, border control. One can be automated, so we can start deploying e-gates. You combine electronic passport and a good biometric engine, it's very easy to install and deploy the e-gates. So from a citizen perspective, it's a matter of service, quality of services, the speed of entry and exit. Then for the police, because with border control, then we can enroll the people and we can compare against the Interpol or their own databases if there's people that are in the rejected list. Not the blacklist, because we cannot use that term, the rejected list. And the other thing that is important is that there's still a lot of counterfeit passports in the region. So they may try to enter into the country with a passport that looks like an authentic one, but when we run the biometrics, we got them. So that's another benefit that the government is going to have. But when you have a central database, imagine the case of Panama. We have the civil registry there, or Ecuador, 50 million people, and you have a criminal incident and you have the live detection. I mean, you have a huge database to try to identify who was present in that accident. So having this integration to a single biometric engine is wonderful for the countries.
You talk a lot about the benefits for the countries. Let's talk about the user, right? The citizen who lives in the country. And you talked about the quality of service. So tell me something about how the life of the people actually is better.
That's a good question, because actually we already deploy a very interesting case in Panama where the people can log into the driver license service that we have there. We identify, we compare by a facial recognition, and they get the driver license renewed without going to the office, and we can even send them the driver license with a charge for delivery. So we're saving 2 or 3 hours to every citizen without having the risk of issuing the driver license to somebody who's not there. But you need to have the people enrolled first, so you need to compare. That's a good example. Banking, also you can open a bank account without going there. And now that I see some examples on one of the presentations for the health control, so I mean, it's just a matter of getting out of the typical civil and criminal and start moving the benefits to the citizens.
You said you're looking at some more countries joining you soon, hopefully. What are some of the countries that you're looking at? If you can say, if it's secret,
we're working,
say more. And,
no, we're working together with Veridos in some, and with Oscar in some initiatives in Peru. We're working electronic passport outcoming tender in Dominican Republic. That's another opportunity, and we're working something in Ecuador for the emergency services. In Ecuador, we already have a base there with Innovatrics. Moises is going to talk about that. So yes, we keep expanding the Innovatrics presence in the rest of the region. And there's a couple more that are not public yet, so I cannot refer to those, not yet.
Perfect.
I don't know if it's a competitor.
Only in the evening. Okay, Jose, our time is up, but it was wonderful to speak to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, and hopefully see you in Costa Rica.
Thank you.